We are live. We are live. Yay, 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 yay. Okay, welcome to our free Modern Triangles class. I am just so excited to be teaching this evening, and I am hopeful that you're excited too. So let's take a deep collective breath, and I'll tell you why. We're going to get to teaching here very quickly. But my goodness, I have had such a day. And I don't know if you have had such a day, but I need my sewing time. So if you need your sewing time too, I am excited that you are here with me tonight. We are going to walk through how to make Block 47 from the Triangle Expansion Pack, which is a new bonus inside the Make Modern Triangles Club. So, how are you today? I'm not sure if you're able to comment. I know if you click over to YouTube, you're able to comment. So, if you're able to comment and join and comment, say hi if you are. If you're watching on replay, I want you to know that we're saying hi to you from the future. And I want to thank you for watching wherever you're watching, whether you're watching live with us here tonight or if you're watching on the replay. We're grateful to have you here. All right, so let's go ahead and get into it. I'm just checking my computer here. Okay, just checking some connections here. This is my first time doing a class exactly like this. So, sometimes when you're doing things first, things happen. So I just wanted to make sure that we are good to go. So I think we're good to go. I see a couple of you commenting. Hello. I see Yvonne is here. I see Marie is here. Hello. And Usha is here too. I hope I said that correctly. All right, so let's go ahead and get into it. So to start us off, I've got a few slides just so we're on the same page here. So I am teaching from the Modern Triangle Expansion Pack. And what we are going to learn what we're going to cover here today is we're going to cover what's inside your expansion pack number 2, which is the PDF of the Block 47 pattern. We're going to also do a quick Block number 47 design walkthrough, which you'll see on that PDF handout as well. We're going to walk through in detail how to make block number 47. And if you are not a member of the Make Modern Triangles Club, you're going to see a special offer to join that once we get to the end of our teaching session here. So I don't want that to be a surprise or anything, but there's all sorts of goodness in the Make Modern Triangles Club, and I want you to have your invitation to join because we would love to have you. All right, so I would love, if you're able to comment, I would love to hear more about you. Which of these best describes you as a quilter and a modern triangle quilter? So you're here because you're interested in making modern triangles at some level. Now, you might be a total beginner. You might not be a beginner, but you've never made a triangle quilt before. Maybe you've made a triangle quilt, but you just haven't made a modern triangle quilt. Or maybe you are all in on the modern triangle quilt love and you love them. So wherever you are, we are glad to have you, and there is something here for you inside the Make Modern Triangles program. Okay, so I put this class together because bottom line at the end of the day, when it comes to making modern triangles, I want you to know that you can do this. If you want to make a modern triangle quilt, you absolutely can. So inside the class, I'm going to teach you how to make one of these modern triangles. I want you to leave feeling inspired, whether you are a beginner or you've been around the block. Okay, so inside pack number 2, so we're gonna flip to pack number 2, and I'm gonna walk you through what's available inside that pack number 2. So you're gonna see block number 47, the PDF, the foundation pattern, and some design options. Okay, that is my cue to flip my camera. Oh, great. Thank you so much for commenting and letting me know what type of level you're at. That is super helpful. I super appreciate that. Okay, so I'm seeing some 3s, some 2s, some 1s, another 1, 2. Yeah, Rosie is saying, I've made a triangle block, but not a modern triangle block, right? And Colleen is a total beginner. Well, welcome. Welcome, welcome. 2, 3. And Carla loves modern quilts. Awesome. Thank you guys so much for commenting. That helps me gauge where we're at in terms of skill level. And you know, it's kind of like all over the board in terms of skill level. So that's cool. Okay, so let me flip the table here. So on my table here, I have got the triangle expansion pack that you were able to download. And for whatever reason, mine printed on 2 sides. So I downloaded it and I printed it off. So you're going to see Modern Triangle Expansion number 2. I try to keep it really straightforward, so there's not a lot of fluff here. And I will say that all the instructions are based from my Modern Triangle Quilts book. And so you'll see that when we get to the instructions. Okay, so here is what you'll see on the handout. This is what the triangle will look like just by itself, right? So this is what you're making. Just a couple of design starters for you just to get the creative juices flowing. So this is what that triangle looks like as a repeated hexagon. So if you made 6 of those guys, this is what it would look like. And then if you wanted to just continue making this triangle over and over and over again, this is what you would get, and this is what the quilt might look like. So I have here, think of these as design starters. These are really just ways for you to take the idea and really make it your own. You don't have to make it how I make it. There's tons of ways you can play with it. So think of it as a design prompt and a design starter. And then on page 2, this is the foundation you will be able to print. So, and here's the instructions. They're all the same for all the different blocks, and they're based on the instructions in the Modern Triangle Quilts book. Now, full disclosure, for the foundation piece triangles in here, there's not a lot of instruction. So if you hear me saying that and you're like, oh, I have to buy the book to get the instructions, that's not the case. This video will walk you through how to make it. And then in terms of block options, if you wanted to size these differently, there's some different sizing options over here. As printed out, this triangle will make an 8-inch finished triangle. All right, so that is what is available in your pack here. Yeah, okay, so we're gonna go back to the screen share for just a moment, and then I'm gonna get into the demo. And yeah, this white screen is just for me it's a cue that I use to let me know that I need to share something on my table or on my computer. All right, so we're gonna get into the demo, and I'm gonna walk you step by step how to make this triangle. And when I teach these, I like to teach in really straightforward step by step manner. So these are the steps that you're gonna see me walk through. And I don't know if it's helpful for you if you want to take a screenshot of this now, either with your phone or your computer, or take a screenshot on the replay. It really depends on what level you're at. If you're a beginner, a screenshot might be helpful. So here's the steps we're going to walk through. So we're going to, number 1, print and check that scale. What size do you want to make? Transfer to the freezer paper. There's a little typo there, excuse me. Freezer paper. I made 2 for my batch sewing. We're going to talk through some design and color options. I'm going to be starting a new color choice today. Fabric and pre-cutting. So any pre-cutting that you might need to do before starting your freezer paper piecing. And then we're going to move on to freezer paper piecing the block. I like to call this freezer paper magic because when it comes time to removing the foundation, it's going to be so easy. It's my favorite part. All right, so before we go into the demo, I just wanted to call attention. I kind of glazed over these, but this is what like a rainbow hexagon might look like with 6 of these triangles in all different colors. these are actually stacks of triangles here, and this is what I've made so far. So you can kind of see I've got 7 clusters of these triangles. Really scrappy looking, really rainbow. I'm not quite sure what I'm gonna do with it in the long run. I'm kind of test driving some border blocks here. These are blocks from Modern Triangle Quilts, the book. So I'm just kind of playing with it right now. And then this is another stack of those pretty triangles. Okay, let me go back to where we are. Oh yeah, you saw these steps, or you saw these triangles here. Okay, so the white screen just means I'm coming back to you. You didn't lose me. Okay, so we're gonna move into the demo here. And I'm just gonna check the comments here just to check in with you guys. Awesome. Yeah, Mary, you didn't lose me. Sorry about that. Cindy's a little bit more than a beginner. Karen, good to see you. Karen's a 2 or 3. Tina, this will be your first. Welcome. Rosie, love modern quilts as well, but not quite there yet to make them. Oh, pshaw. Pshaw. Ooh, well, what a dork I am. Mary's a 1. And Pam has done paper piecing before, but not modern triangles and not freezer paper. I think you might like it. I love it. I'll tell you why when we get there. All right, so let me move on to my table cam. We're gonna walk through how to make these blocks. Okay, so before we get going, whenever I start these modern triangle classes, I like to just start off with what is on my table. So on my table, I've got a selection of fabric. I have got my instructions here, and really we just need our foundation. I have 2 freezer paper foundations already made and prepped. And then in terms of sewing stations, I've got my pressing station right here, and I have my cutting mat and my rotary cutter off camera. You're gonna see me bring those on camera here shortly. And I have got my iron warming over here. And I think that is it. And of course I've got my sewing machine. Now I'm using freezer paper piecing, and unlike paper piecing, I don't have to decrease my stitch length. So I'm stitching at a standard stitch length, right about 2. I don't know what you call that. I'm stitching right around 2. Bottom line, because I'm using freezer paper, I don't have to change my stitch length. Okay, so step 1. Step 1 is printing your foundation. And if you are making the 8-inch full version here, meaning you're not scaling it up or scaling it down, you want to make sure that this test square is 1 inch. So we are going to do that. So I'm just doing that here. Yep. Okay, my head's in the way here. Count my grays. I gotta put my head there to make sure it's really 1 inch. So it's really 1 inches there. So we are good to go. Now I've already made my foundations. So you can do this in 2 ways. I'm not gonna go too much into detail here just in the interest of time, but these are transferred onto freezer paper. And I happen to just print these directly onto freezer paper, right? So that's why this is shiny. So these are printed directly onto freezer paper. Okay, so to prep your freezer paper foundations, your next step is you want to pre-fold along all the stitching lines. And so that is what I'm doing. So pre-folding here. And so I'm going to do this kind of carefully. I'm just folding all along the stitching lines. And actually what I normally do is I normally line up a straight edge with that stitching line, and I just fold it back like that. I was thinking, why is this more finicky than normal? Yeah, so I just line up a straight edge or ruler with that stitching line, and I fold it back. And then I use my fingernails to create a nice crease. Now, because this block isn't like an intricate block or anything, I don't have to make sure that I'm that accurate. So if you're piecing with a more intricate block than this one, you might want to pay more attention. I don't know. I think I did a pretty good job. So bottom line, to prep your freezer foundation here, you are going to just fold along all the stitching lines. Yeah, so Claudette, I'm just pausing here because Claudette, excuse me, she asked a question about how do you print on freezer paper. So you can actually buy printable freezer paper, but some of my students, they will take rolls of freezer paper, cut it down to the right size, and just print using a roll. Either way. And my printer is eating my freezer paper as of late. So this is actually the last batch of freezer paper. I printed it out a few weeks ago and it's not working anymore. Yes, Susan, this is absolutely an absolute necessity. Yes, makes sewing so much easier. Okay, so my foundation is prepped. And yeah, this one's already done. Okay, this one is already done. And so we have got our foundation prepped. The next step is to do any pre-cutting with the fabric. Now it depends on what type of quilter you are. I like to do my pre-cutting in advance because it makes my sewing session that much more enjoyable. Now that might not suit your maker personality needs, so you might like to cut as you go. So I will say I'm gonna do a mixture of both. So normally I like to do it before, but with this guy I kind of like to do it as I go. Okay, so I want to show you something before I do. And just indulge me here for a minute. So it's weird, the class page never automatically started. I think I'm gonna get some emails on that. I am going to show you what I'm thinking in terms of design, and I'll show you why I'm going to change my colors. So inside the triangle expansion pack, we've got all these different triangles. And for the expansion pack, I did it all in greens and pinks and yellows. But I'm thinking these almost look like snowflakes, right? So I'm thinking about doing an entire quilt in blues, maybe blues and yellows, like it's a snowflake star maybe. So that's what I'm thinking. I'm not quite sure on the final design. I think I might space these out a little bit, maybe put some sashing in between them just to give them a little breathing room. And if I do that, I will make sure and put the instructions in that expansion pack for you guys. But this is just what I'm thinking, and I'm thinking about doing it in blues and yellows. Okay, so I wanted to show you that. So you got a sense of where I'm going as a maker here. So what I've done is gotten my blue. So I was thinking that, how best to do this. So I was thinking maybe I would stay with the white for the top here and just do all the blues here. What I wanted to do was to do the two center ones in a lower value. So that's why I have all these different values of blue out. So I've got light, medium, light, medium. I couldn't find a lot of darks. My stash, I don't have darks. I don't like navies. So that's what I was thinking. And then I thought, how fun would it be if I had like a yellow star in the middle? So right before I sat down to do this class, I pulled these three. And so I'm thinking that my star, I want it to be the citron here. And I think it's going to be a star. Obviously, it's going to be a yellow star, right? And I'm thinking I want to do two lighter colors here and then two darker colors here. So I think that these are too light. And then I like this one. This is my fabric collection I designed. I like these two for my middles. And then I was thinking for my outer fabrics, I'm thinking this one for sure, and then maybe this one. So let's see. This one, like, it seemed a little bit too busy right next to each other. And this one, I might not have gotten enough contrast. I feel like this needs to be darker. And I'm looking at my computer and just seeing if I need some darker color there. That's it. There we go. I like that. So as I'm putting these prints together, I'm looking for my colors. I want the color to be the same type of blue. And then in terms of value, I want the outer ones to be darker. So I want there to be some contrast between the two outers and the two inners. So I've got lower values here, medium values here. Here's a darker one. I just don't have a lot of darker. And then I'm also looking for scale in different prints. So this is a horizontal print. This is like a toss print. So those contrast there. And yeah, so I'm looking for contrast also, not only with color and value, but also with prints. So that's kind of my thinking for choosing those fabrics. I hope that is helpful. If it is, let me know. I appreciate it. Okay, so fabric is selected. Yay! Okay, so I'm gonna do yellow and blue. Okay, so when you are freezer paper piecing, you're gonna start with number 1, go to number 2, 3, 4, and 5. So this piece here is our last piece. So we're gonna set this aside for now. And yeah, I'm gonna use this one because it's got the darker numbers so you can really tell. Okay, so let me make sure my iron is warm. Okay, so I am gonna walk you through how I do this. And I won't say I lied, but I told you I like to pre-cut first, but with this block, I haven't been doing that. And what I've been doing is I've just been coming down to my sewing room. I've been turning on my movie on my iPad, and I've been enjoying some wine with my freezer paper piecing, and it's been really delightful. Okay, so what I'm doing now is I'm lining up my first section on my fabric. And as I'm doing this, here's what I'm thinking. I want to maximize my fabric and minimize fabric waste. So you saw me do this initially. I feel like that would waste fabric. So that's what I did. And what I'm doing is I need to make sure that my fabric on all sides has at least 1/4 inch extra for my seam allowance. You'll notice that my foundation, I don't like to use seam allowances for my foundations, and I'll show you why when we get going. But basically, it lets me use my add 1/4 inch ruler. You can do it either way. If you do it without seam allowances, you just have to add in extra fabric here. Okay, so I'm lining this up. I'm making sure that I've got it at least 1/4 inch all the way around my first section here. And then I want also at least 1/4 inch seam allowance back here. And you want to make sure that when you're doing this, your fabric is wrong side up. Pretty side down, wrong side up. So the wrong side is going to get stuck to the freezer paper. And with a nice hot iron, you are going to press your freezer paper to the wrong side of the fabric. And I am pressing everywhere on section number 1. And then my fabric is stuck to my freezer paper. And as I do this, I'm going to cut my fabric off here. Okay, so I've got fabric number 1 stuck to my section. Now, there's a lot of different ways you can do this. So if you have seen this done another way, you might have seen me do it another way, don't fret. The good news is there's lots of different ways. Okay, so let's get section number 2 ready. So I am going to use this guy, and this time for pre-cutting, I am going to use a template I made. And what I did is I made myself some templates from one of the pages I cut out. So I printed out an extra page, and then I cut all the pieces out somewhere. So however this is supposed to go. Yeah, so I cut all these pieces out from here, and that's just giving me a template, so it kind of guides my cutting. Okay, so we are on section number 2. So full disclosure, this is also fabric that I've designed. I designed a fabric line. It was amazing. Such a great experience. And one thing I like to do is I like to sneak my own fabric in my projects. So I can say, look, my fabric is right next to Tulip Pink's fabric. Aren't I cool? Okay, so let me get my bearings here. So eventually I want this fabric to go right sides together. And so I'm going to put my template with a number side down. And what I'm going to do is I am going to do the same thing I did earlier, and I'm going to cut that shape out. And I want to cut at least 1/4 inch around all 4 sides here. Now, if you're a beginner, you might want to give yourself a more generous cut. The key thing to remember here is you want to at least grab the shape. And if you want to conserve that precious fabric, just remember you need at least 1/4 inch all the way around that shape. All right. So in the interest of time here, I am going to pre-cut the rest of my fabric. So this is number 2. My next fabric is for section number 3. So this is precious fabric to me. I don't know where I got it. This is the rest I have left. But look how pretty this blue is. I'm like, look at this blue and look at this blue. Ooh, I can tell I am going to be eking out some fabric here. Okay, so I've got a pretty decent fold. So I am going to get rid of that fold right quick, just because it's going to make the cutting easier, more accurate. We're foundation piecing, so we've got some flexibility in terms of accuracy. The accuracy doesn't come from cutting, it comes from the foundation. Okay, so I said number down. Yes, number down. And when you're cutting, make sure you cut that shape. So cut the essence of the shape, giving yourself at least 1/4 inch. And if you are one who likes to use solids, you don't have to worry about up or down because both sides are the same. And part of me is like, please let this be right. Please let this be right. Because it could be wrong. And wouldn't that be funny to see the quilt teacher get it wrong? Okay, so I have a ton of this fabric. This is one of the backings I used for one of my modern triangle quilts. One thing I like to do with my solid quilts is to have a really fun backing. So I have a ton of this fabric. So I don't need to be so conservative. And this is section number 4. And so Kathy, I'll answer your question here. So Kathy asked a really great question. Do you take into consideration the straight of grain? I think intuitively I do sometimes. And I think it's more because I'm trying to conserve fabric, but it's not a huge concern of mine. That's probably one of the more common questions I get. And I really, the short answer is I don't. The long answer is sometimes, but it's more of in terms of like conservation of fabric. So one reason I don't think about the straight of grain too much is because some of these angles, they get kind of weird, right? And it's a lot of brain power to try to think through, okay, now which side of the triangle is this? So I find that it takes a lot of brain power, so I don't, and I haven't had any ill effects from that. I hope that makes sense. Okay, so let me go ahead and do my last one here. I like to save my selvages. That's why the selvage is there. Okay, so you see me doing like the straight of grain just so I can maximize this fabric. So I have and Pamela wanted to know, is there an easy way to know how to remember the template orientation? I don't know. There probably is. I'll have to think on that because I had, let's make sure it goes right before we do this. Let's make sure if that's fair. And normally, full disclosure, I normally work with solids and it doesn't matter as much, but I would love there to be like an easy way to remember. Okay, so let's move on. So we've got all our pre-cutting done. Now, once we get the hang of things, now we can, really enjoy our Netflix movie that we have on, right? Okay, so I'm going to piece number 2 onto number 1, and I'm just peeling this back here so you can see the seam here. The seam here is at least 1/4 of an inch. Now, if you find it's bigger than 1/4 of an inch, you could come through. Excuse me, I thought I lost my rotary cutter. You could come through and give that a trim. So I trimmed it down to 1/4 of an inch here. And we are going to do piece number 2. So for piece number 2, I'm going to walk you through the steps. When I do piece number 3, I'm going to come back through and I can zoom in if that's helpful. So I've got piece number 2 here. And so to sew piece number 2, I've got my unit here and I've got everything folded back. So I've got the foundation folded on the line between 1 and 2. And I've got section number 2 here. And what I'm looking, so I want to do right sides together. And while I'm looking for this, I want to orient this fabric so that it matches the shape over here. So that's what I'm looking for. So I need to turn this around until this shape matches this shape. And so here, it's kind of hard to see without zooming in. So I've got the wider part up here and the narrower part up here. So I've got wider, narrower. Once I see that is correct, then I'm going to put right sides together, lining up my raw edges here. So raw edges, lining up right sides together. This is what I do next. I put my fingertips at the corners of that section number 2. So corner, corner. And what I want to do is I want to make sure that I have enough fabric covering that entire section. So I'm looking for at least 1/4 of an inch because I need to add in my seam allowance. So peeling it back, I have plenty of room back here. And then I have plenty of room over here. And actually I have a lot of room here and I was kind of skimpy right here. So I'm going to shift this downwards. So peeling that back, now you can see I've got a little bit more flexibility right there. So more fabric there, more fabric up here, down here rather. Yeah, and so once I see all that, then I can take this to my sewing machine and stitch. And while I stitch, I'm going to stitch right next to that fold, trying not to sew through the paper. So I'm going to do it. I've got a video pre-filmed of a different project, so once I finish here, I'm going to play that quick little video just so you can get an idea of what it might look like. So I've got my sewing machine all ready. Needle down. I'm going to sew right next to the fold, trying not to sew through the paper. Oh my goodness. And of course, my sewing machine is not threaded. Come on, guys. Always helps to have your sewing machine threaded. Details. I came down here and I was like, yep, I've got a full bobbin. I'm ready to go. Okay, you can do it. You can thread a machine on camera. Okay, success. Okay, so as I moved this unit, I was really careful to grab all the layers. So I'm just going to do a quick check here. I'm still good, so I'm going to try again. Okay, needle down, sewing right next to the fold. Okay, so let's take a quick look here. So before I show you what I did, let me roll that footage. So this is a different project, but it's the same idea. It's freezer paper piecing. So I'm going to sew right next to the fold. Oh no, it might have to download from the cloud. Okay, I hope that was helpful. Okay, I'm going to zoom in. Okay, I just want to point out that when I stitched here, I started at least 1/4 inch away because I don't have that seam allowance there, and I ended my seam at least 1/4 inch away. Okay, so I sewed right next to the paper, not through it. Yeah. Okay, next step here. Okay, so I've unfolded my paper and I am going to finger press here and press and then turn it over to the paper side, and I'm going to press everything up to section number 3 rather. Nice and hot iron. All right, and then our next step, we're going to trim all this fabric. We're going to trim that down to 1/4 inch. And we are going to add fabric number 3. Okay, so I've got my unit folded back here, and I've got my new fabric, and you can see me already orienting my new fabric here. So I've got the wider part here. It's a little bit easier to see zoomed in. So the wider part is here, the narrower part is here. I've got that funny little slant here. So I'm looking for the fabric shape to be the same as the paper shape. Once I see that those are the same, then I can put these right sides together. And then I put my fingertips on the back end of that section, and I'm just making sure I've got plenty of room up there, plenty of room back here, and then plenty of room up here. once I see that I have all those things, I can stitch. And Pamela was asking what is my stitch length? So my stitch length is the regular stitch length. I don't need to decrease it. So I like to stitch at around 2. Right now I'm stitching at 190. Okay, so I opened up my unit, paper side down, finger pressed, then press. I'm going to flip everything over and press everything that's been added up to the next section, section number 4. And we are on section number 4. Before I do that, I am going to trim the seam allowance down to 1/4 inch. This is a step you could wait on. I find it's a little bit more easier to visualize how the next piece of fabric is being added if you trim the seam allowance before adding the next piece of fabric. Okay, section number 4. And if I want to say, if this is brand new to you, this takes some getting used to. Once you get your rhythm, you'll be able to sit with your Netflix and just have a really nice sewing session. So if you're looking at this and you're feeling overwhelmed, I want you to know that feeling is normal, but keep chipping away, keep plugging away, and it's going to be lovely. It's going to be such a relief when you figure it out and get your rhythm. Okay, so while I was doing that, I was feeling to talk you through this. So I'm looking to make sure that the shape of the fabric is the same shape. So I've got the long end over here, this funny angle here, this over here, and this over here. So it all looks the same. So once I see that it's all the same, I can put these right sides together, and I'm centering the top and the bottom. And what I want to look for, I want to make sure that there's at least 1/4 inch of fabric sticking out down here. So I might be a little short here, so I might shift it. There's plenty of fabric back here. And then there's plenty of fabric on this side, so I am going to shift it downwards. Yeah, I had plenty of room, but just to be a little safe. Okay, so once I have all those elements in place, then I can stitch. Okay, so I stitch through the paper a little bit. Sometimes this happens, especially if there's a really good movie on. I try to watch movies that aren't that good, so I didn't get distracted. This one's pretty bad. This normally I don't stitch through this much paper, but it happens. So if that happens to you, just release the paper. What I do if that happens, I try to rip in a way that I don't lose this foundation. So I haven't lost this foundation. You'll notice that the paper is coming off the foundation. It's not a big deal. You can just reattach it, and I'm going to do that in the next step anyway. All right, next step. We're almost done with this. We're almost to the magic part. Okay, so finger press, press. And this is a really good block to learn on because you're really repeating the same steps over and over again. And that repetition really does help nail a new technique. Okay, one more piece to add, and then we are on the magic part. So exciting. Okay, last step here. Okay, so I've got my unit and I've got my new fabric. And what I'm doing, I want to fold this back first, Rebecca. Fold this back first, and I want my fabric to match the shape of the paper. And this is a really clear part here. You can see that this paper matches the shape of the fabric. And before I do that, do you notice I forgot to trim my seam allowance? And it's a little jaggy right here. And I could trim this later, but I told you before, it's a little easier to see and envision the fabric, this fabric, if this is a clean cut. Okay, that is better. Whoops. Okay, that is better. See how much cleaner that looks? That's just, it's gonna make this next step a little bit easier. So this fabric shape needs to match this shape here. Once you see that it matches, you can put them right sides together. Raw edges are lined up. And I'm trying to center the top and the bottom. So now I need to make sure I've got enough fabric here, plenty of fabric up here, plenty of fabric back here, and then plenty of fabric here. So I could have been a little bit more stingy with my cutting. Okay, and I see that it's all ready. Then I can take this to my sewing machine. And whoopsies, I shifted a little bit. So my raw edges got misaligned. All right, right next to the fold. Ooh. Oh, that's the wrong step. We don't need that. Okay, I sewed through my paper a little bit again. You know what happens. I'm just using my fingernail, rip it up. Okay, last pressing here. Ooh, look how pretty. Look how pretty. It's gonna be so pretty. All right, and then at this step, you can skip pressing from this side. I don't know. I feel it's not complete, but you don't have to do that step. Okay, last step before we get to the magic. We need to trim the excess fabric here. So this is why I don't like to use seam allowances, because I like to use my add a 1/4 inch ruler. It just butts up right next to that paper, and then I can continue watching my Netflix and I don't have to be like, where is the 1/4 inch seam allowance, right? So I like to use this because it makes my sewing sessions enjoyable. Okay, bumping up to the edge of the paper, trimming, anything to make my sewing a little bit more mindless so I can watch that TV. Truly though, this is how I relax. Just come down here with a project and my Netflix. This should be an advertisement for Netflix. Okay, last trim here. Okay guys, so those of you that are joining me live, we're coming to a close. So I just want to give you a heads up. If you have questions about the technique or the triangle, now's your time to ask. Okay, we're here. It's the magic part. It's the magic part. So now that you've got your triangle pieced, here is the magic part. So instead of spending your precious creative time ripping, you are just going to peel very carefully your foundation, your freezer paper from the fabric. There we go. And this is brand new freezer paper, so it's a little bit more sticky than normal. Here we go. And isn't that lovely? Isn't that nice? And now we can use this foundation to piece the rest of our triangles, right? Super fun. Yay! So that is how we make block 47 I was joking when I sent out the email. I was like, man, block 47, I need to come up with some better, sexier names for my blocks. And Karen, she emailed me and called it Sexy Whirligig. And that's the only thing Karen emailed me. She replied with Sexy Whirligig. And for a second, I was like, what? Because, you know, sometimes you see like something questionable on your computer, you're like, oh, no, 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 no. And I realized it was in response to this triangle name. And I was like, yes, Karen, Sexy Whirligig. So, Sexy Whirligig, here we go. Oh my goodness. Okay, so I will get to your questions here in just a moment here. I want to wrap us up just in the interest of time to keep us under an hour. So I've got a few more slides and then we'll come back to the questions. Okay, you didn't lose me. That's just me with my special system that is confusing to everyone. Okay, so just as a refresh here before we close out, these are the steps that I walked you through. So number one, print, check the scale, make sure it's the right size you want. Transfer over to the freezer paper. Same typo, different slide. 3, think about your design and color. I walked you through it quickly what I'm thinking in terms for my colors. Then pick your fabric, do any pre-cutting that you need to do to make your sewing session enjoyable. And then freezer paper piece that block and then remove that foundation using the freezer paper magic, the magic of freezer paper piecing. All right, so what did you think? So I would love to hear what you thought of this class. This is kind of an experimental class. So the triangle expansion packs, they are just kind of new triangles that I've thought of since the publication of my Modern Triangle Quilts book. And that was, you know, gosh, I guess in 2017. It's been years, right? So there's a lot more triangle goodness. So I'd love to hear what you think, if you'd like to see more of these. So what we did today, we walked through what's inside your expansion pack number 2 PDF. We did a quick little design walkthrough. We did a lot of how to make block number 47. And we're going to move on to that special invitation to join the Make Modern Triangles Club if you haven't already joined us. Okay, so I loved hearing what type of quilter you are, and really whether you are a beginner or you are a modern triangle quilt lover, there is something inside the Make Modern Triangles program for you. And I want to share with you the why. So when I publish Modern Triangle Quilts, it's a great accomplishment having a book, but what I love is I love teaching, right? And as I started teaching from Modern Triangles and I started traveling to different guilds around the country, what I heard was, wow, those quilts are so beautiful, but I could never do that. And that really just broke my heart a little bit, because they're really just triangles. And I hope that you saw that here. It's really just triangles. And you know, you make one triangle, you make 3 triangles, 6 triangles, and you put them together in a pattern and you start putting them together, and it's really just triangles, right? And so I put together these classes because, most importantly, I want you to know that you can absolutely make a modern triangle quilt if your heart desires. And I want to leave you feeling inspired, maybe to upgrade your triangles. And whether you are a beginner or you've been around the block, you can absolutely make these modern triangle quilts. And you know, they don't take as long as you might think. They take as little as a few hours a month. So picture a nice sewing session for you. So the Make Modern Triangles Club is something I started because I want to help quilters make modern triangle quilts in a really fun and step-by-step way. So the Make Modern Triangles Club is all about that. It's that complete step-by-step system to help you make a modern triangle quilt. So it's really all about taking you step by step, no missing steps, no confusion, to help you make and finish a modern triangle quilt. So it's everything you need is inside the Make Modern Triangles program. So what we normally do is we normally do a block of the month each year. So this wildflower block of the month, this is the one that we're doing now. You've likely seen these blocks come through in your email here. So we're working through these blocks. I think our next one is this one that we're working through. And so it's set up really to take you step by step through the year to make these beautiful modern triangles. So we have the wildflower one, which we're working on live this year in 2021, but we also have stargazer and solstice and rainbow triangles. These are the blocks of the month from years past, and these are all finished and ready for you to dive right in. And then of course we've got the Triangle Quilts Tech Vault. So these are all the trainings that are specific to that technique. So for freezer paper, there's all sorts of videos on freezer paper. So if you need some really targeted training in terms of like, how do I transfer the foundation from the pattern to the freezer paper, for example. Then we've got the Triangle Chatter community, the lively bunch of ladies. And we've got our monthly live sessions that are a lot like the one that we just did, where we get together and we work on one of the triangles live together. And those are typically triangles from our current block of the month. So that is all inside there. It's a tremendous value. There's all sorts of blocks of the months in there, right? So the 4 blocks of the month plus the triangle quilts. I mean, that's over a $400 value, but members get access starting at just $14. There's also bonuses. I love doing bonuses, and that's part of the reason you're here, because I've got a new bonus to add to our club here. So these bonuses. They're just fun. Sometimes you need something kind of fun to work through, like the Design a Modern Triangle challenge. That's one of our little lessons where it's just a paper. You're just working with paper and colored pencils or whatever. It's kind of a fun design break. We also do, and then I'll tell you about the Merry Modern Triangles. This is another little fun beat. It's a little like a mini block of the month where you put together 12 of these isosceles triangles and you make a Christmas quilt using those isosceles triangles. We had a really good time last year. So those are like the extra, these are like the fun ones, right? And then there's 2 bonuses that help you make those triangle quilts. So the Freezer Paper Piecing Masterclass, it's included as one of the bonuses for the Modern Triangle Club. And the reason I include it is because we do a lot of freezer paper piecing, as you see here today. And I want to make sure that you have that step-by-step guide that will take you from freezer paper piecing 101 to more advanced trainings like tiny piecing or improv freezer paper piecing, for example. And then another bonus we have is choosing colors for modern triangle quilts. Let me know, do you get stuck on colors sometimes? I don't want you guys to get stuck on colors. So I have that choosing colors for modern triangle quilts to really get you started on choosing your colors for your modern triangle quilt. So we have a risk-free, cancel anytime type guarantee. So it's a 60-day money-back guarantee. If you're not happy with the program for whatever reason, you can email me directly for a refund, and you yourself can cancel anytime. But if you need help canceling out your membership, I'm here for you to help walk you through those steps. But of course, we've got all sorts of happy members, and here's 3, and these 3 kind of run the gamut in terms of quilter types. So this is Kim. This is her solstice quilt she made. And I love Kim. She counts her quilts. So you can go, I think she just finished a quilt really recently. So aren't her colors just gorgeous? So this is Lisa. This is actually her first quilt. So for you beginners, This was Lisa's first quilt, and I am so impressed that she was able to do this, because a lot of times people look at I told you, people look at my quilts and they're like, wow. So to have her have this as her first quilt is really, it's an honor for me and such an accomplishment for her. And Shane, if you like to break the rules, you will love Shane. She takes the triangles and she will completely riff. And I remember when she chatted, or like the chat box in one of the Zooms, she was like, is it okay if I don't do exactly what you say and I change it completely? And I'm like, yes, I live for that. So Shane is a perfect example of how you can take my ideas and completely riff to make something truly special and unique to you. Okay, so to recap us here, inside you're going to get those 4 block of the month programs, plus that Triangle Quilts, Tech Vault, the live monthly sessions that we do, plus the bonuses. And you can join us for as little as $14 a month. That is over a $500 value. It's just, there's so much fun stuff inside our program because we love Modern Triangles. Okay, so here is our new bonus that we are launching just for you guys. So we are so close to welcoming our 500th member. And so I put together a special bonus. So the Modern Triangle expansion pack, these are 12 packs of different modern triangles. And I want to say there's almost 20 blocks in there. And so these are going in the Modern Triangles Club, but if you join within the next 2 days, you'll get that complete triangle expansion workbook. So I think it's like 37 pages of these design options and foundations here. So it's really fun. I emailed the members today and gave them their 1-click download of those triangle expansion packs, and they're really excited to use them. Okay, so to recap here, the access starts at $14 a month. There should be a link below the video where you can click over and join us, and we would love to have you. So when you join, you can choose where you want to start, whether you want to start with our current block of the month here, or whether you want to start with these fun design bonuses, or just work at your own pace and do something off the wall. We would love to have you. Okay, so let's do some Q&A time here. I want to make sure I hit all your questions. Okay, I lost my comments. There we are. Okay, so we have a few more minutes here. And oh my gosh, I'm laughing because I filled up a gorgeous bottle of water with amazing ice, and I left my ice water upstairs. Okay, scrolling back up. Okay, so Carla mentioned, I think drawing arrows on the cutting template would provide clues for orientation requirements when using print. So yeah, let's talk with Carla. So I think I had the number side down when I did this. So number side down. And I think I'll have to go back and make sure. I'll go back and look at the replay. Sometimes when I'm teaching, my brain's not fully present, so I want to make sure I double check that. But number side down is what I'm thinking. And gosh, it would help if I showed you what I was doing on my table. So I just wrote a little note to myself here, number side down. But again, I'll have to check that on the replay. Normally, I don't work with prints a lot, and I've just kind of been winging it with my quilt over there. So Susan, she doesn't use her walking foot. She just uses a regular 1/4 inch foot, and it sews fine. That's awesome. I think someone must have asked that question. Betty, this is one I've heard works really well for freezer paper. So if you have it, using a stitch in the ditch foot, I hear, as Betty is saying here, I hear that works really well for freezer paper piecing. Yeah, Colleen I made it really easy to follow. That's awesome. And I know if you are just beginning here and you feel a little overwhelmed, that's normal. It is overwhelming at first, but again, if you keep working at it, keep chipping away, I think if you made just 6 of these blocks, you would get the hang of it really quick. Oh yes, Karen. Karen, the sexy whirligigs. I don't know if you're still here. Sexy whirligigs. I loved it. And, and I didn't even think about it until I was on camera here. But yes, sexy whirligigs. Love it. Thank you, Karen. I love it. So Tina, approximately how many times can you reuse each freezer foundation? So with the quilt I showed, with the rainbow quilt, I printed out I made 2 freezer foundations, and I've made 42 blocks. So that means I've used each one 21 times. Now, again, this block isn't like super complex or anything. So I can kind of use it, and if the if the freezer paper starts to get a little bit less sticky, I can kind of still use it. So what I'm trying to say is, if you have a foundation that is more complex, like if you're using, I think Judy Niemeyer is the really complex star one, you might want to refresh your freezer paper foundation. So I hope that makes sense. But I'm 21 and counting for those. And Susan was saying she's gotten easily 8. Yeah, easily 8. Yeah, and it stops having its tackiness after a while. I will say, if you make sure your iron is really hot, especially as your freezer paper becomes, is geriatric a good word? It gets used. Mary, can't wait to try it. Yes, Karen, opens up a lot of possibilities. Like, think about how much time, and it really depends on what the project is, right? But think about how much time, just when you save that little bit of time, you can have more time to create or be with your kids, or just to sit there and do nothing. I'm telling you guys, I had such a day. I just want to sit and do nothing and teach and sew. Yeah, Rosie said, very cool. Done lots of foundation paper, but not freezer paper. Yes, love it. Yes. We've got all sorts of programs for you to play with, Rosie. Thanks, Mary. Tina says, great job teaching. Woo woo. Thanks, guys. I appreciate it. I really do. Thank you. So, Mary, I see there is an annual option. So, yeah, the monthly option is $14 a month, and then the annual is $140 a year. And what that will do for you is you'll get 2 months for free, essentially. So I hope that makes sense. I just put the $14 on there because I feel like it's like simpler. I don't want to give you too many options. Yes, number side down. Awesome, guys. Thank you. Okay, so we've gotten confirmation. Appreciate it so much. So on your template, number side down for prints. So normally, like for the blocks of the month, I give you these templates, but for the triangle expansion pack, I didn't have the time or the bandwidth to do that. So yeah, it takes a lot of work to do those templates. So number side down, that's super helpful. Thanks, guys. Julie says, great class, really enjoyed it. Hope to join you again soon. Thanks for coming. Yes, thank you, Mary. Yeah, Jane, try it with freezer paper. It's, for me, yes. That's why, I have that freezer paper piecing masterclass, and I'm telling you, it changed my life. And that's like the main reason I have that class, is because it changed my life. Like, I have to tell. I'm such an evangelist. I have to tell, and I have to teach people about freezer paper piecing. Yeah, and Cheryl, you don't have to do paper piecing. You can skip right over to freezer paper. So Cheryl here, you don't have to go, you don't have to do paper. Skip it. Do freezer paper. And Pamela says, I am geometrically challenged. This looks like it might not be as confusing as the upside down of regular paper piecing. And I have to agree with you. I don't know how to articulate that, but that's been my experience. And I know that some people, like, it flips back and forth. So that's been my experience, where just like that flipping back and forth, you just have to look for the shape of the paper to match the shape of the fabric. Once you have it there, then you can put them together and so on. So I agree. I'm not sure how to articulate that. Yes, I'm so glad you noticed. Yeah, thanks guys. Yeah. Yeah, Rose, you gotta rejoin. Yeah. All right, guys. So we are coming up to the end here. So as a reminder, gentle reminder, this 2-day bonus, the one-click download here, and I can show you what all is inside that. Let me go here. And we are going to show you the preview. So yeah, so this is the Modern Triangle expansion pack, the one-click download. And normally after Friday, it's going to be parsed out into 12 groupings. And so what I did is I put this together in a nice download, like my bio, like, hey, there's nice to meet you. And like the rules for the expansion pack, there's no rules, right? Have fun. And then all these fun blocks. Because, I mean, we're just getting better. I mean, there's so much fun for triangles. And so here's the ones you get, and then there's 12 more bundles here, or 11 more bundles rather, and growing. So I emailed the members today their one-click download, because after Friday it's going to be parsed out into 12 packs. You know, sometimes it's just easy to just grab that one-click download and enjoy. So it's been fun. So some of the packs, so there's like this Block 55 foundation. This one has a reverse option. So it's got this one, and then it's got a reverse. And so like, where's the design? So here's how it looks with just one without the reverse. So you can see how it kind of folds into each other here. And then if you sew 3 regular and 3 reverse, then you get like the secondary pattern here, which I really like. So some of the packs have loads of triangles. So let's see. This is one of my favorites, just simple. So I think this is the second to the last one. Yeah. And then this is where I stopped. I've got 6 more designed. I just ran out of time for designing. So I've got more to come. Faux show. So yeah, so that bonus is going to be available through Friday. After Friday, it's going to be, I guess, locked away in the vault, so to speak, where each month you'll get access to a new one. But if you join before Friday, you get them all at once. So I hope that makes sense. All right, guys. Well, I'm going to do a last check of the questions here. Oh, yay, Colleen. Joined the club and ordered the book. Awesome. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, Karen, my evening definitely improved for sure. I was looking forward to this, and I love teaching because sometimes it's the only time I get to sew. Because I mean, today I was doing a lot of carpool. So I have 4 kids, and my husband just started a new job, and we got a house a handyman came by today. So it's just a lot of back and forth, that type of thing where you don't feel like you got anything done. So I love just teaching. So I got a block done. So absolutely my day improved. But thank you. Thank you. All right, guys. Well, thank you so much for being here. I hope that you found this class valuable and helpful. If you make a triangle, I would love to see it. And for you members of the Triangle Chatter community in the Make Modern Triangles Club, make sure you post your blocks in the Triangle Chatter community so we can feature you as a featured member. We love seeing your triangles because it's kind of boring if we only see one triangle, but there's so many iterations. We love it. The more iterations we see, the more ideas we get as a group. All right, guys, thank you so much. I hope you have a wonderful evening and have fun. I'll see you later. Bye for now.